3 cost-effective approaches, 3 ways to save money. I also have other classes that get into this more in depth about bartering and trading. I did one last year, I believe, on Photo Week about the business of fashion photography and kind of how it all works and who pays for what and things like that. And I go really in depth into bartering and trading. But these are the 3 cost-effective approaches I wanted to start with for this class. First one's barter, next one is keeping it simple, and the third one is do it yourself. And we are going to put these into practice. In case you didn't notice, behind me on the table, I've got all my little prices right kind of things going on here. So I have lots of do-it-yourself and inexpensive things that we will use. So we're going to put these into practice as well. All right, so let's look at the first one. My recommendation to have cost-effective creative shoots is to remember to barter. And the most important thing that photographers forget is this next point. Everyone needs photos. Every single business needs photography badly in the days of social media. They need great photos for their website. They need great photos for Instagram. They need great photos for a promotion. They need photos all the time, especially with Instagram, where if they, for example, that's a social network that they were trying to harness. You need good photos a lot. And so what I remember is my images have value and people need them. So I barter and trade anything and everything. And nowadays, I can barter and trade for amazing hair and makeup because they need images for their portfolio and they need images for their social media. Or maybe I want to shoot in a beautiful location. That location probably wants to update, and brides are booking for their venues for next year. Maybe they need more photos for social media to increase engagement. Or maybe they need a headshot. Maybe it's a company that they say they don't need any photos for social media, but everyone needs a headshot. So maybe I ask the owner of this company that I want to borrow, maybe I want to borrow a car and they don't want to trade for photos, but they probably need a portrait of themselves or their kid or something like that. So my approach is I know everyone needs photos. It's always my task to figure out who to ask and to figure out what photos they need. And so I very seldom pay for much stuff anymore. Now, even when I started, I didn't pay for anything. I just wasn't as good as stuff. So you just get a little bit better and a little bit better. And people always ask me, oh, what was your big break into photography, fashion photography? And I'm like, nothing. It's all tiny little steps. A little bit better model, I get better photos. Then with my better photos, I get a little bit better hair and makeup. And then with that, I get a little bit better models. And then with that, I get a little bit better magazine. So it's the same thing with creativity. It's building your networks and connections with people. So I just want to show you a couple examples of things that I've done recently. This photo, for example, that dress I got for barter, which sounds like, okay, well, yeah, that's easy for you. This was a student. This was a student at a university, and this was their portfolio piece to exit university. And so students need pictures of their clothing because they're going to need it to approach design houses that they might want to work for or on their website and social media. So maybe if you were interested in fashion photography or wanted something cool with clothes, maybe you reach out to the local university and see if there are students there. Or go to your local fashion week. Most cities have some sort of fashion week and see if there's somebody there that needs photos in exchange for letting you borrow pieces. So you gotta kind of change your mindset a little bit. And the other thing that I've really learned between this bartering and trading thing is you build an awesome network. People that you do them favors, they do you favors. And it works out awesome. The floral headpieces that I have a couple pictures of, I have a florist that once she did me a favor, I did her a favor. It goes back and forth. She recommends me for a big job, now I recommend her. She'll build me a headpiece, I'll take a photo of her event. And so it's a mutually beneficial relationship and we get each other leads that we would have never have had otherwise. But we barter and trade all the time. And so here's an example as well. This is a newer shot that I did recently. I found this a friend of mine at Lens Pro to Go. He had worked with this headpiece designer. She had just started. I think she had designed 3 or 4 pieces before. He's like, I have this friend, she's looking to maybe enter into this field. Why don't you hook up with her? And so I said, I want a big headpiece full of butterflies. And she made me a big headpiece full of butterflies. But you never know who that person's going to be that you build a relationship with. And so now I shoot her stuff, she builds me headpieces, and it's awesome because I'll send her an inspiration. She'll give me something that takes it to a completely different level. So I recommend that. All right, my second tip for cost-effective shooting is keep it simple. There's a fashion photographer he's incredible. His name is David LaChapelle. If you look at David LaChapelle's work, it's not simple at all. There's nothing simple about it. Bright colors, huge sets, like just massive productions. Chances are, if you try to do a shot that looks like David LaChapelle on a $10 budget when he had a $60,000 budget, you'll be able to tell. Like there's going to be a clear difference. So I recommend keeping it simple. You don't need to have a big production to have a beautiful shoot. And that's what I showed you those images in the beginning. They were really simple, but really effective, really creative, and just as much impact as a really complicated shoot. And chances are I'm more likely to actually pull it off, especially if it's simple and I'm just starting off. So I recommend when you first start, pick concepts that are easier, like concept around a color or just flowers or fabric, nothing overly complicated. Like this was my first shoots when I moved to New York, and I just bought a red wig and made her skin white, but in a whole bunch of different ways. The wig was like $20. And so basically the concept was she had a red wig and white clothes. You can do a red wig and white clothes relatively simply. And it was the idea behind it that made it more interesting. Or we're going to do a couple concepts or things around flowers today, but flowers are an easy inspiration that, especially if you do portraits, it's going to be applicable to a lot of subjects. All right, so my third tip here is do-it-yourself projects. Get crafty. Here's the thing. I'm not crafty at all, and I mean that sincerely. I don't make stuff. I'm not good at it. There's so many levels I can really, I'm like really not good at this. So when I say get crafty, I look at other people who can do these giant headpieces or make dresses. I mean, I made this skirt where we tied a piece of fabric and then just stuffed more fabric in. All that matters is it looks good in the photo. It doesn't actually have to hold together. It doesn't actually have to look decent on the back half. It could look terrible. You just photograph the front half. It doesn't matter if you glue it together or pin it together, if it only holds together for the 1/125th of a second you need to get that shot. So I'm really not crafty, but you can be. And in fact, on Creative Live, I think it was Kevin Kubota has a class on like making your own light modifiers. I know Sue Bryce makes a bunch of stuff in her shoots. So if you have the more crafty gene in you, there are endless tutorials out there for you. However, that's not me. So everything I'm going to show you is stuff that I like pick up or like put in front of the camera or like throw on my model, because that's my level of craftiness. So don't be discouraged if you're not talented in that way. So yeah, you really could do all of this stuff. But one of my favorites, and I do have here, is holy powder. And have you guys seen the powder runs where people run and they throw powder at them? I mean, color runs, they throw powder at people. You can order it online in these pouches, and this entire thing was under $20. And it makes really cool textures. The one on the left was shot with a macro lens, so I could get all this beautiful detail. The one on the right, I found out after this photo that the red stains your skin. I mean, not for long, but just as a heads up, like the pink and red don't wash off as quickly. And if your subject's blonde, their hair will change colors. I'm imparting this knowledge to you as you get creative. But it's $20, and I have had so many cool shoots. I've had shoots where we throw the powder and it flies everywhere, and shoots where it'll be the model's holding still and we drip the powder down the face and just the powder's moving, and close-up macro shots and close-ups on the lips, and it's just fun and it's just cool. So this is my type of crafty. That's about the extent that I can get. Or another one that I really like is if you have no professional lights, you can use a flashlight, like I said in my example. I've used tiki torches, and I've used pen lights, and I've used flashlights, and I've used, there's one of my favorite fashion photographers, and I'm totally gonna test this technique. He just did an editorial with you know those things from Disney with like the fiber optics and the kids like in it, I don't know, they look like little fiber optic things together. My parents were sweet. They bought them for me at Disney, so I know that they exist. He just did a shoot with them because I could tell, and there's streaks of white wrapping around the subject, and he's Solveig Sundsbo, one of the best fashion photographers out there, and those things are like $10. So it's on my list. But for example, paint with light is an awesome way to get creative. This next shot, for example, is lit with just pen lights, like LED pen lights, and it's a 42-second exposure. I had one green and one blue, and the reason that she's in focus is because with this long exposure, I just have her hold still, okay? I had her sitting in a chair so she could hold still, and as long as I only trace over each part of her face once, it won't get blurry because there's no more light on it. It's if she moves and I go over her face again, then I'm in trouble. But I went nice and slowly over her whole face, and you can see where it overlapped in the hair a little bit, that it's not crisp, but you don't care about that. And this is one of my favorite shoots. Like, I had so much fun with this, and it was little pen lights. Or these shots I just did like a couple, maybe a month and a half ago, and she's lit with tiki torches. So we're actually in my parents' garage. Let's talk about creative problem solving. I was supposed to shoot outdoors, and there was a torrential downpour, like insane. There was no way we could go outside and shoot. And so I decided, hey, Mom and Dad, you know those tiki torches you have? Can I borrow them? You know, so like $5 tiki torches. And then I convinced them to let me shoot with fire in their garage, which was also very nice of them. I almost caught something on fire, but it was okay. Like, it didn't actually happen. And so it's on a tripod, long exposures, and I'm tracing the model with a tiki torch and moving it around, and that's what gives the fire pattern. And so she's lit with a, dollar store or Walmart tiki torch, and it makes for a really cool and interesting shot. So it was my creative problem solving. So sometimes not having the solutions available to you that you would like actually gives you better results. Let's talk about inexpensive props. This is the story of my entire beginning of my portfolio. This was the shot that I was talking about before, with the spirals in the eyes, and this is one of my very first, fashion portfolio shots. And I found these glasses on eBay for $17.99. And then there's things like Etsy. Etsy has everything you can imagine, from everything, like dog hats and stuff. It's awesome. But they've got glasses, and then there's sites like DeviantArt, which there's artists on, and there's so many different places, so many different artists creating things. So going back to just so you know my creative process, here's how my brain works. Scrolling through eBay. Ooh, these are cool glasses. Okay. These glasses, what do I like about them? All right, I like the color and the graphic pattern. Okay, so if I play up the color and the graphic pattern, to keep it graphic, I'm going to get it in tight. And to keep up the color, I'm going to make the skin white and the lips red. Like, I try to figure out what I like about something and build a shoot around what I like. That is what my creative process is. So in this next example, these are from a trimming shop. They're actually for prom dresses. You wear them around the waist as design. So each one of them was $12. And what we did is we took a safety pin, pinned one behind her neck, and we super glued another onto a cheap pair of glasses. But I think it looks like fashion and high end. And so it was the same thing, walking through a Michael's or a trimming shop going, ooh, these are sparkly. I want to do a shot where the model's skin looks sparkly. And so we painted her and made her skin match that texture. So your process is totally different than mine, but that's kind of how mine is. I start with something, a theme or something at Michael's or something I see on eBay, and I start with that one thing, and I say, how would I photograph this? Why do I like this? What would be the best photo of why I like that? So I wanted to go sparkly on that one.